My name is Miriam, and I am the voice of Stockton.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Yeah. Good evening and welcome to Rams Hockey. My name is Rick Pulaski, and I got a great group of guests with us. My co-anchor man here, co-host, is Mr. Zach Lytle, clean-shaven Zach Lytle, a very handsome-looking man. I have some international flavor with us tonight. We have a young man that plays with the Stockton Rams, the St. Mary's Rams, is Itai Bandar, and his dad, Ruslav Bandar, that showed up 2 days ago from Israel. He came all the way from Israel. He missed his son that much. He came over here to make sure he's doing the right thing. So, and then we have a special guest. Very honored to have this young man sitting across from me. I met him, 8, 9 years ago when he was with the Stockton Thunder, took over for Mike Benton, and we have Brandon Kisker, a former Heat broadcaster. So we got a bunch of people on here tonight, and we're going to ask some questions and get some feedback from them, talk about the last weekend's games in Anaheim. And where we're going, we're on a little bit of a hiatus. Today was the last practice until January 7th, so the boys get to go home. I know my current guests are going to go somewhere. We'll have them explain that. Talk to Coach and get his insight, as we always do. Very talkative young man. Anyhow, so here we go. Itai, talk to us about St. Mary's. What's going on there, how you like the team, that type of thing, and where you're going from here.
The team is great. Everyone knows each other, and everyone's friends. The school is great. It's really good.
As compared to Israel, how is the teachings at the school?
The teachers are, I would say, more calm.
Calm?
Yeah.
When you say calm, they're not yelling at you? Is
Yeah.
that what Israel, they yell?
Yeah.
You can't do that in California. You cannot yell at anyone in California. The people do not like that, but go ahead. So the teachers are calm?
Yeah. The way they teach is in St. Mary's, like, the schedule is a bit weird, the way the schedule is organized. Other than that, everything's it's like in Israel. It's almost as it is in Israel.
As far as the curriculum and what you're learning and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And Dad, how was it? Or first of all, how you picked St. Mary's out of all the places in the world? You're in Israel, and you think, you know what? I'm going to send my kid to play hockey. Let's go to Stockton, California, and pick St. Mary's. So tell me how that came about.
Actually, we know the coach Derek first, and he invited us to join team and place in Stockton. As I know, it's the first year of this team, so we see indeed our opportunity for our son to improve his hockey skills and to study in the U.S.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I know you speak Russian better than English, so if you want to speak in Russian, go ahead, and we have an interpreter here, your young friend, so your young man, not friend. So if you feel that you can explain it. Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I don't speak good English. People tell you that all day long. So so you pick it because of the coach. Derek was coaching you where, in Israel?
No, Derek was actually never coaching me. We just knew that he was the coach of the national Israeli team.
Mm-hmm.
So, we thought about it. I think it was always an option, but when it became too late, we didn't have time to choose. It was either staying in Israel or taking a risk and going to Stockton. So we immediately chose Stockton.
Oh, that's great. Now, compare what you've done already this year about practices. We've been over this many times on the show, Brandon, about them practicing 5 days a week. They have weights every day, cardio. How is that compared to hockey in Israel?
In Israel, we only had like a third fall of the ice. So there was like 3 groups.
So 3 teams on the ice?
3 teams on the ice at once. So we didn't have a lot of ice. All the drills, the skating, it was really like in a pretty small space. If you think about it, it was good for certain skills, but now that we have all the ice, we can work with it. It's way better.
Way better here.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Coach to jump in here. From the beginning when Itai got here, now most of you folks don't understand this, but Itai's the youngest player on our team. He just turned 14. Was it last month or the month prior?
It was October 1st.
October 1st, he turned 14. So you came here in this country at 13 years old. You guys got at home or listening to me, how many people could send your son or daughter halfway around the world to play hockey in the town because of a coach? I mean, that says wonders about our coach, but to have the trust that your boys are going to be taken care of here. But Coach, jump in here and talk about Itai's where he's been as far as when you saw him here the first time and where he is today.
At the start of the season?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, at the start of the season, Itai played very European style of hockey. Like, he liked to go backwards, bring the puck back towards his own net, and then kind of get wound up and go. And we tried to get him away from that. And now he gets the puck and he gets up the ice quick. And one of the things we've noticed with him in the last month is, even though he's the youngest player, the faster the game is, the better Itai looks. Like, he is better at high speed, and it's not an easy quality for people to have. Like, there's very few players that are like that.
Well, that's good. That means the program's working for you, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to let Brandon get in here a little bit because he is just off to a new job, and I'm trying to keep him in the hockey world, folks. Talk to the people that don't know you. I'm sure a lot of people do, but talk about your background. You came from Ohio, I want to say. Didn't we talk about that?
Originally from Buffalo, New York, but I grew up in Ohio. Big hockey player.
You got a Canadian accent. Where'd you get that?
That's the Buffalo. That's the New York. But and also just being around those guys so frequently.
Yeah.
But so I grew up a big Buffalo Sabres fan, big hockey fan. Played since I started playing when I was 3 years old. So I've been around the game for a long time. And as I got into college, I decided that pursuing a career in sports media was something that I wanted to try and do. And went to the University of Cincinnati and was fortunate enough to work at a radio station, a college radio station. I did anything I could, and I really launched the off-ice stuff that the University of Cincinnati Bearcats ice hockey club team had for them. So I did a lot of their play-by-play and interned for the Tampa Bay Lightning, fortunately. That was kind of what kind of set it off and made it a real thing, that when you get an opportunity to work with a club of that caliber and do the same kind of thing where you move across the world, or in my sense across the states for an opportunity, it's something you got to try, and you do. And so as soon as my internship kind of ended, you look around, and sports media jobs, in particular broadcasting jobs, are hard to come by. So you kind of have to go where the job is. And I interviewed for the job with the Alaska Aces, and it was one of the only times I'd only interviewed with a few teams, but the Alaska Aces, I sent my tape in after sending a lot of tapes in, and no luck. And I talked with Josh Bograt, who's actually now one of the play-by-play guys for the Dallas Stars, and Josh said, look, we're hiring this guy who's a little bit more experienced. He's from the ECHL, but it's going to open up another job. I suggest you send your stuff in right away. And I was a little discouraged. My wife, who is still works with the Stockton Heat right now, she said, "Hey, you should get your tape into this." And I was kind of discouraged, and I was, maybe I'm maybe I don't want to do that. But she put me into doing that, and I got a call from then President Brian Sandy from the Stockton Thunder the next day after Mike Benton was announced as the new play-by-play guy of the Alaska Aces, and I came on board in 2013, so it's been a fun ride.
So Mike had the job in Alaska
Yeah.
that beat you out of that job, per se.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's where you knew he came from Stockton, so you came down here.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't for Josh giving me the heads up that job was going to open, it does take some time. If you're not super familiar with where everyone's at, you're gonna have to do a little digging. So it was nice of Josh to give me the heads up that it was going to open up another job in the ECHL, and it did, and I had my stuff in the next day to Brian.
So that was like, what, 8 years ago? Or
It was 6 years ago.
6 years.
It would have been, this is my 6th season with the team to start the year, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the folks that haven't heard this guy do play-by-play does a great job. Can you give us, like, your goal? When they score a goal, come on, give it to us a little bit.
It is not something that I can fake. I've tried to do it. In fact, when I first took over the duties, I didn't have as much play-by-play for the Thunder because my first year I was the color guy.
Yeah.
So I actually sat in front of a mic and was doing this whole fake goal calls, and they sounded so bad. I decided to not use them and just wait for after the first game to get some goal calls. So I can tell you I scream a lot. I get excited and passionate about the play that's developing, but I don't think I could give you an honest to goodness good one.
It's funny you say that because we had that young man, and as old as I am, I forget names, but he did the play-by-play for the St. Mary's game, and I was allegedly doing color, and Mike Bird was the other color guy on there, and I'm watching the game. Dustin's in the booth. There's where we're in here is a gigantic studio compared to where we were in Oak Park, but I'm getting excited because I'm watching the boys score, and I go, "Hey, it's a goal! It's a goal!" And Mike's over there going, "You're stepping on him." And I didn't know what that meant, but it means the play-by-play guy's got to call it, not you, dummy. Sit over there and be quiet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's fun to learn. It was a learning experience for me. So then I didn't say much after that. I just kind of sat off in the corner by myself.
Color's hard to do. It really is. It's a lot more challenging than people think. That's why a lot of times I think the best people that make good color commentators are someone who had played the game. So when you see on like national television, Eddie Olczyk does a lot of it. Who else does it? Brian Engblom, he's done it a lot. These are guys that have played before that make the best color commentators. Sure. Because I think for color commentating, one of the things that I found so challenging about it is that it's not about describing the play, but it's rather informing and helping people understand why that play was made. And I think it's something that I'm sure you as a coach can appreciate too, that you're doing the same thing albeit a different sense. You're trying to let your team understand why certain plays or why a goal was scored against you, or why a certain power play strategy is not working against or is ineffective against another team. So it's the same kind of thing, and I think that's why it's so effective as a color commentator to have someone who had played the game, whether it's a coach or a player of some sort, to kind of go and do that. So it's harder than people think. It's not as easy as just talking.
It is, and it's. Game goes by pretty quickly too.
It's a fast game. It's not baseball, so
yeah, you can a lot of color commentating in baseball because there's a lot of dead time.
A lot of dead time in baseball because there's not much to talk about,
And I have a face for radio, so
yeah, me too.
Yeah, we got something in common.
Yes,
there.
we do.
Coach, let's go back to last weekend against Santa Margarita. Give us some of the stuff that you saw from those games and talk about Santa Margarita a little bit.
Okay. Well, Santa Margarita was still are the defending national champions for the high school division, and they lost some of their top players, but they're still very good. And we went down after a good break and good practice sessions from Minnesota, and we're able to see what we thought we had a month or so ago. We had that bad trip in Minnesota, and we thought, boy, things are getting a little loose. And then we went down, and I think we were down 2-0, 3-1, 4-1, and then we tied at 4-4. Itai actually scored a tying goal with 12 seconds left to tie the game and send it to overtime.
Big goal.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was typical, just Itai, fast hands, get in the right spot type of play. And it was a good. It was good for the group. It was good that they practiced some good things that week, and then we saw them in the games, and then they had success doing it. So everybody sort of realized, you know what, we are on the right track. Things are going the way we want to go. And then the second game, our backup goalie started, gave up a goal on the very first shot, and I thought, boy, here we go. Get the other guy ready. But then he played pretty good. He had, I think he gave up 2 goals on 25 shots to the first 2 periods, and it was a 2-1 game at that point. And it was 3-2, 5 minutes left in the third, 6 minutes left in the third, and we had a power play and a chance to tie it. And Santa Margarita scored to make it 4-2. And then our backup goalie got a little sideways and gave up a couple more late goals to make the score 6-2. But it wasn't a 6-2 game. It was a pretty even game before that little blow-up at the end. So overall, the weekend was pretty successful for us.
And Santa Margarita was the national champions the year before.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I love him. He loves to talk.
Yeah. They won. They were winning. They won last year. Yeah.
They won it all. So it's a good showing, and like we talk about every week, is people put a lot of stuff in wins and losses. At the level you came from, Brandon, that is really pretty much how you're graded. But for a team of St. Mary's first year, we have a lot of young kids. We have probably 4 504s,
Yeah.
something like that. And we're playing against 18-year-olds, 18 and 17 primarily the teams are made of. So the boys are going out there well, and what's really that I see is that even when they get down, I mean, in the score, they keep fighting and they keep coming back, and they're just like 1 or 2 possessions could have went a different way, and they win. And they did that. The game that they did win was here against Lake Tahoe Academy. We went up there the day prior, Saturday, and they played. And I guess the game, I was not there, but the word came back. It was a pretty rough game. They were very physical. We don't play that physical game, but the boys figured it out the next day when they came home, played a home game at Oak Park. They figured it out. They were still taking runs at us, but they were able to use their skill and get out of the way, and they were the other team was taking penalties, and we jumped them. I believe it was 3-0 in the first period or 2 periods, and then we kind of laid back in that second period. We had the lead, and I think we were playing more defensive than offensive. At least that's my take, and we let them back. We let them back in the game, and they tied the game up, and then they went ahead of us. It was 4-3, I believe, but we didn't quit. They did not quit. They came back, and they ended up winning the game. I believe it was 5-4. Was that right, Itai? Yeah. So.
Or it was 6-4.
6-4. Yeah, that's right. We had an empty net at the end of that game. It's got to be, from a player standpoint, when you get behind the game, how do you guys, I'm sure you do, but look at the score and say, oh my God, we're losing, or do you just focus on your next shift?
Usually, no, I never look at the score. I just never look at the score.
Yeah?
No, I never do.
So you just work shift by shift, and that's what the coaching staff is telling you. And my grandson plays, you all know, and I tell him that same thing, because he's been on, when he played for the Colts, we'd be getting, our rear ends handed to us, and I told him, it's just your next shift. All you got to do is go out and win that shift, make something happen, and keep it moving to the good side. You can break a game down, coach, in every 5-minute period or whatever, and win that allotted time, whatever you do that. Do you find that to be true also in the...
Yeah, I mean, in the pros, they probably do 5 game segments, but it's the same idea. You're looking at, you're breaking down a certain portion of time to a certain amount of minutes, and how you play is indicative of that. So if you are, if you realize that you've had a rough 5 minutes of play, if you can come back and turn the tide in the next 5 minutes, then you're doing something right, and you're turning, obviously, the momentum in your favor. So I think that's a great way to go.
Yeah, people just have to understand that. But I think as a team, Coach, I would have to say we're on the right path to get to where you guys want to be. And like we were just talking before we came on the air, Coach and I, we were at Dutch Brothers Coffee, by the way. It's a little plug for them. He was saying, we have over half our season in front of us. And we really do. I think we've played about 20 games is what we figured out already. And we probably got 25 to 30 more in front of us. You boys get, like I said, a couple weeks off. You come back on the 7th for your first practice. But then you're going. I mean, we looked at the schedule, and what are they doing? 3 out of the next 4 weekends after we get back, they're playing.
Yeah, we have weekend in San Jose, and then we have a week off, and then we have a weekend in Michigan, and then Anaheim a weekend after that. So 3 out of 4.
But I think that's kind of the challenge, though, you touched on the break. From my experience in college hockey, where we also have breaks, that's the real kind of turn in the season, especially knowing that there's 25 games left in the season. It's how Itai and the boys can come back after that break. That's going to be key. So it's not so much, obviously you're spending some time away from the rink. You're not lifting weights. It's Christmas. You're probably going to be eating stuff you're not supposed to be eating.
Really?
Yeah, well, okay,
Not
I
me.
am.
Not me.
Not you. I am.
Right, yeah.
But, it's all about how you come to practice, that first practice going into the next season, and that sets the tone. So, I think you mentioned as a young team, that's where it's super important to have that emerging leader or, the strong leadership from the coaching staff to say, hey, boys, we got to come to this practice, especially this first one, and it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be one that you're going to skate a lot. You're going to get back in the groove of things, and it's got to be the entire team has to buy into that common goal of, this next 25 games we want to take off. This is where we want to go. And I think, you guys mentioned you're playing national champions and you're taking them to overtime with a last second goal. Like, that's super things to be proud of, I think. And it's really exciting to see this program come together here in Stockton, because this is just, it wouldn't have been the case even 6 years ago when I first came here, let alone, 10, 15 years ago. So it's really cool that that's happening.
Yeah, I think it's we're to go on in the future that we've set a good foundation here, and like I said, we're crawling right now. Then we'll do a little walking, then we'll start running, and it's pretty interesting because they do play-by-play on these games. Like the Anaheim Duck League has their own announcing teams, and when they play in the NAPHL in Minnesota, they had an announced team, and then I told Coach Eisler last week, when I was watching the game in Anaheim, and whoever the guy was that was doing the play-by-play says, one thing I'd say about St. Mary's, they got the best dressed coaching staff I've ever seen. And then Coach says, well, that's great, but I want him to tell me how good I dress and how good our team is. That's our goal. So I think the kids have bought into his program. I don't think there's anybody that's unhappy with where they are. You hear any rumblings in the room? No? And how are you? Are you, Ruslan, how are you feeling about where your son is and where his progress has gone in hockey?
Yeah, definitely. I see the big progress in his hockey skills, and I hope I very glad he can to do such progress together with his studies.
How are your studies, by the way?
They were good.
I mean, they were good.
Okay, they're still good.
They're still good.
They're
Yeah,
still
boy.
Good. They're fine.
They're fine?
Yeah.
That's a tough thing to. Most of these, like I said, Brandon, most of these guys, this is their first year. A lot of kids, obviously, definitely from out of town here, but we have a lot of people living with families and that type of thing. And then the school's more. From when I went to school, they had the chisels and hammers, and that's how we printed everything. But now it's more of a college type of. When I went to college, you'd have 2 or 3 classes one day and another class another day, and that's kind of how it is. You don't go through all your classes every day. Is that right, Itai?
No.
Okay, so it gives them some freedom. And then some of the kids that are away from their parents gives them that much more freedom, although they have to respect the families that they're living with. But it's not like having mom or dad there making sure you're doing your work and that type of thing. So, and then going on the road as much as we do, staying in a hotel room. I mean, that's a lot to throw on a 14. We have 2 18-year-olds on the team. The rest of them are all 16 and under. So it's a big bunch of stuff to be thrown at you. And I think them learning their time management skills, I mean, that's a big learning curve for some of the kids. We have a young man that's living with my grandson, and his mother's a teacher. And he knows who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to blast him. But his grades dropped. So, and he's a good student. He's a good boy. He's a good man. I mean, the kid's good. But I think there was a little bit too much freedom. So now mom picks him up at night, makes sure he gets his homework done. And you know what I mean? So, but he's back. He's got his grades up. Things are heading in the right direction. So that's probably them just learning, figure out how much study time they really have to study. And then plus all the hockey stuff. I mean,
I have a question for you, Itai. What do you miss from Israel? The family doesn't count. That's
Family
an obvious
doesn't
one.
count. Okay.
What do you miss from back there that you don't have here?
Probably the food.
Describe.
Hamburgers. The hamburgers here are not really good. No, they're not.
so how about In-N-Out Burger? Is that not
No.
good? No,
No,
good.
it's
No, not even close.
No.
What kind of hamburgers do they have? Lamb hamburgers? I mean, what's the story back there? What makes them different?
I don't know. It's just I feel like it's a lot better. That's just how I feel.
Now, how long are you from Russia originally, or were you
Me from Belarus.
Yeah?
Itai born in
Israel? I'll be darned. Speaks fluent Russian. We're getting another Russian next year on the team. I was talking to you about that at practice today.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there'll be 3 of them, or 4, 3, right?
I think
Yeah.
3. So
So,
What else?
yeah.
what else do I miss?
Yeah. I mean, you're here for a long time. You must miss some stuff.
the cat.
Probably just my house, my room.
Yeah?
Yeah, just
Did you bring anything over with you to remind you of home?
no, not really.
No?
No, I don't think so.
Your dad,
His little brother has occupied his room.
oh, his little brother.
Yeah, my little brother, he took over my room.
That's usually what happens,
And
right?
his computer, it's more important.
Rosalind, tell us the night you flew in and he saw you for the first time, had no idea you were coming. Tell us a story you told us the other day in the lobby of the rink about him poking you and.
Yeah. The story when I came.
Yeah, you came from Israel.
Several
to see
days
it,
before. We decided to do not tell him the time I come to make kind of surprise, and my wife very asked me to picture to make a movie like when he meet me.
Yeah.
So we did it. It's very excited.
He said he kept poking you. Dad, why are you here? Why are
What
you
are you
here?
doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing
What are
here?
you doing here?
He was checking up on you. So you don't know who's watching you when you're over here. You know that, right?
No.
Yeah, there's cameras everywhere. You got to be very careful.
Okay.
There's lots of cameras in here right now.
Yeah, there is too
Yeah.
many here. Exactly. Exactly. So, that being said, we're looking to the future in Detroit. What league are we playing in Detroit? Is that the same league we've been playing in Minnesota, Coach?
Yeah, North American.
And do you know who we're playing there?
The only team that I remember from the list is the Afton Americans. So,
What'd you say?
the Afton Americans.
Okay, I'm glad you said
Not
Afton.
African Americans, the Afton Americans.
We got to be politically correct here, right? Just want to make sure. I'm usually the one that's not, so I got to
You're
make
the
sure.
only one that's not.
That's my co-host keeping me in check.
He is.
Yes, he is. So, Brandon, talk to us a little about the job that you're doing now.
Yeah, it's radically different than sports media, that's for sure. But just working on marketing and tourism for Visit Lodi. So it's a little bit different. I've actually learned through the course of getting a relationship with the folks here at Visit Stockton, and I've done a little bit of research here and there in places like Visit San Jose, which I actually called Team San Jose, and a few others, but they all run a little bit differently. So for Stockton, for example, a lot of Stockton's goals are here locally. So it's a lot of the things that they do here is for locals in Stockton. Well, in Lodi, it's a little bit different. We do a lot of things targeted towards out-of-town visitors. So a lot of the things that we post or publish or write about, talk about, post on social media about is geared towards getting people from the Bay Area, from LA, from Sacramento, from elsewhere to come to Lodi. And obviously, one of the big reasons why people come to Lodi is Lodi wine, and there's 85 world-class wineries. In fact, some really cool news that just emerged as I was going into the job was Adam Mettler, who is the winemaker for both Mettler Wines and Michael David Wines. He got it because of Michael David Wines, though. Was named Wine Enthusiast Winemaker of the Year, and that's huge because he's not only beating winemakers here in the U.S., but he's beating winemakers from France, from Italy, from everywhere else in the world that are making wine. So it's pretty cool to have that kind of recognition in the city, and it certainly gets a nice little buzz. I myself am not a wine drinker, so
I have to start.
I've started. I have started. In fact, my first day, I joked with everyone when I left that my first day, my boss had wine tasting scheduled for me. So it's fun to kind of. I think that's for me. Hockey was a huge passion, still is a passion, but my biggest passion in life has always been about travel and experience, which is why it's very cool to see a couple people from Israel and from Belarus here that I'd love to. I've had Belarusian whiskey before. One of the players brought
Whiskey?
It may have been booze. It may have been a booze.
They don't have whiskey?
All I know is I could not pronounce whatever it was that I tried. I did not know what it was, but it was pretty strong.
Oh, strong, I'm sure.
Strong, I'm sure. Okay.
There is whiskey. You were being sarcastic? Or
Me?
Yeah.
I'm sure vodka is probably a bigger thing there, right?
What?
Yeah.
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 Vodka.
Yeah. It's pronounced differently, yes.
Exactly.
But so I'm more of a beer guy, hence the Kona beer.
Yeah.
But it's been fun to kind of experience something that takes me a little bit out of my comfort zone. And wine is vastly different than hockey, vastly different than beer. It's different scenes. So it's fun to be a part of that. It's fun to open up to new ideas and new things. And I think that's been the cool thing for the last month, getting used to doing some new things, and obviously spending a little bit more time with my wife has been a lot of fun too. So
how about for her?
What do you mean, how about for her?
You said you were having fun being with your wife. Is it fun for her that you were there?
Oh, yeah.
Being for her?
I would say yes.
We'll have to ask her.
You have to ask her,
Yeah.
but she is someone who does enjoy spending time with me. I think she's a little crazy. That's probably why I married her. But she seems to enjoy it.
There's not a lot of wine waiting for you, bud. I hate to
Yeah, that's right. They are not.
Yeah. Dustin, you work with this young man. Do you have any questions?
His name is Breaky, by the way. We
Breaky.
don't call him
Yeah.
Dustin.
Breaky.
Yeah, there was
Breaky,
two
yeah.
Dustins.
Yeah, there was two Dustins, so
Yeah.
he got Breaky.
Yeah.
Breaky, I like it.
Part of my last name, but yeah.
Breaky, I have a question for you.
Go ahead,
Breaky,
Brandon.
have you learned how to use a laminator since?
No, I have not.
All right.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
You need to put that on your to-do list.
Hey, that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years
yeah,
ago.
I just saw it on Facebook.
So we had the outdoor game, which was actually 2 years ago. It was
last,
the 18th.
Yeah,
so
last Friday
yesterday?
or yesterday, 2 days ago. Yeah,
So
which
that
was actually played on the 18th.
Yeah, two
That
days
was
ago.
in where, Bakersfield?
No, that
No.
was in Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as we were getting ready to go, I asked Breaky to laminate something for me, and I thought, I guess a laminating machine. I'd used it when I was in school, when I was a kid. I don't know if you've ever laminated things, but you just have a pouch and you put the piece of paper in the pouch and you run it through.
Right.
He put the pouch on top of the paper without the paper being inside the pouch, and then run it through.
Wasn't my best moment. No.
It was a disaster.
Yeah.
We had good news is the other Dustin fixed it, so we were all good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Epic meltdown.
And I thought you were sharp.
I am a little bit sharp. I'm sharper now.
He's
Yeah.
We
I've
just
improved.
need to get him a laminator. $25 Amazon. That's a plug right there.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, Coach, you might get to hook up with Brandon, because now that you're, you're doing these wine tours and whatnot.
One wine tour coming up.
One wine tour.
So far.
Well, that's right, but he could tell
One
you.
more than
How many
we've
we
had
have in
before.
Lodi? 85?
There's 85 plus, so there's a lot of them.
85.
Yeah.
You may not ever get out of Lodi.
Wow. I might not give somebody over the mountain to come over here.
Oh, yeah. Tell her I'm going to host it for her, so she kind of likes what you
She likes
said.
you better than me.
I don't know, yeah. Doesn't say much, but anyhow. Getting back to hockey now. So we got this stuff in front of us. You guys are going to have some fun time off here in the next week or so.
You
And
said the
where-
boys are going somewhere, right?
These two young
Yeah.
men, where are you going?
I forgot.
Well,
Seattle. We will
Se-
travel to
Seattle.
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 I have
Yeah.
a couple of friends there from Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will drive. It's a good opportunity to meet them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you have anything there besides seeing them that's like on your, we could say bucket list, but something that you want to make sure I got to see this if I go to Seattle?
Yeah.
What would that be?
I don't know. They will.
They will. Okay. There's a Pike's Market up there I'm familiar with, where they bring in the fish and they sell the fish and that type of thing. And then what is it? Seattle. The Needle.
Yeah, the needle. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some things to do there.
Soccer team's out. They're done. The season's over.
And they are getting an NHL team.
They are getting an NHL
3
team.
years?
Number
2 years?
32.
2020.
Yeah.
2020. They're gonna. Do you think it's going to be a brand new team or a team that will move?
It's a brand new team. Yeah, it's going to be another expansion team, and I think the real question now is where their AHL team's going to go and what that's going to do. But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting thing, especially after the way that the NHL kind of changed the rules to make Vegas, immediately impactful in the league. So,
well, the way they did the draft was the big thing there.
well, they're going to do the exact same thing because if I was Seattle paying the amount of money they're going to be paying, you better
What
make
was
sure
that
they made it
number?
be competitive.
Does anybody know?
It was astronomical.
Yeah.
If Breaky is a good producer, he'll look it up right now.
Yeah, I am getting
And look
that
at
right
him;
now.
he's already pulling it up.
But what's the real thing is what's the name going to be? And I hear a lot of people want the Metropolitans.
Yeah, the Metropolitans is probably the right name for
Yeah.
it. I would say that's the old Seattle NHL team.
Of course, people want the
Pro team.
Supersonics back too, though.
That was back when what was that, the California?
That was
League?
back. No, I think they were the Seattle Metropolitans back in like the early days before there was a Stanley Cup. Like it was an old
You're talking
team.
about-
I'm pretty sure. I don't know the exact history on the Metropolitans, but I know they're an old team.
$650.
Ooh,
$650 million.
Breaky, you were a little slow on that one.
I know.
And you can own your own NHL team.
They have to renovate Key Arena in Seattle, so that's going to be extra $800 million also.
Yeah, they do have to do that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or a new arena. I know they proposed the new arenas, but nothing's being done right now. I think so.
You know what the Sharks paid to get in?
What was the Sharks, coach?
I want to say $75 million.
And they've been in existence 20 some years now, correct?
Yeah, in the '90s. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they started at the old Cow Palace. We got to play at the Cow Palace.
Talk to us a little bit about that because I've heard from players how that facility was, and you were in the Cow Palace too, weren't you,
I
coach?
coached the team there.
Yeah.
The Cow Palace still smells like cow. I think. Did you have the same experience? It smelled like cow to me.
When we were there, we got thrown out. Our owner didn't pay the bills, so they threw us out. And we dressed in the locker room for 2 weekends.
Who were you with?
It was a junior team. That
Oh.
was a gong show. And then the last weekend we were there, we had to dress in the hallway. They wouldn't let us in the locker room.
Wow. Now the locker rooms were upstairs there. So.
They were upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah, and there were some steep. It was almost like a ladder.
They were very steep. To watch goalies go down and up the stairs was entertaining in its own, but it was a tough go for everyone to go upstairs and downstairs. The one thing I remember, we had an assistant the one time, and if you're ever asked for a stick stretcher, if an equipment manager ever asked you for a stick stretcher, say you're not getting it because there is no such thing as a stick stretcher. But we'd ask the assistant who kind of came along with us if he could find a stick stretcher, and he literally went around the entire building trying to find a stick stretcher, asked everyone if there's a stick stretcher before some poor guy said, "Hey, I think someone's having fun with you." That's what it is.
What was the biggest practical joke was ever? I know I've heard the Mike Benton stories.
Practical joke?
Yeah. Because usually the media guys get picked on a little bit on a road trip.
We get we get picked on, but I didn't get picked on as much because I helped the equipment guys out.
Yeah.
So and I gave it to the other guys. I guess one time we were in San Diego and David Riddick, who's the goalie right now up in Calgary, I guess he's kind of the de facto starter. So he was someone I got along with pretty well, and I'd mess with him pretty frequently, and he'd mess with me. So there was one day we were in San Diego, and I was just working on my computer doing stuff before a game. He comes off the ice for after morning skate. He grabs a bunch of ice and just shoves it. I'm in suit and tie, and he shoves it all the way down my back. And he goes out. I think he went out for morning skate, and I was so mad at him. So then I told him, or I guess I kind of went away, and the equipment guys are like, "Hey, Brandon slipped on all the water that came out from under, like all the ice that you put down his back, and he actually went to the hospital." And he freaked out like I had actually gone to the hospital. So he was pleasantly surprised when I popped up and I was fine, but he was scared for a little bit, I guess. So.
Yeah, has any practical jokes been on our road trips that the coaches will never hear this? So go ahead and tell us what has happened to you. Play a prank on somebody, one of your teammates?
No.
No.
What about the more important question for you guys on the bus rides? When you who gets the movies, and what's the popular movies that you all watch on the buses now?
Phones. There is no movies.
Get out of here!
We're on
Really?
two
no
vans.
bus.
There's
We're
no
on a
bus.
van.
Oh, okay.
The two van.
So what happens is when we get in the van, as we get the van started up the road, I crank the heat high in the back, and they pass out.
Oh man.
He's got it figured out. Zach lives in San Jose, so sometimes if I'm off on the weekends that they play over there, he'll ask me, "Do we take a van so I don't have to come across the hill and back?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." So I've had my share of boys in the van, and they listen to some wild music,
Yeah.
and they worry about me saying a few not so good
Choice words, yeah.
on here. But the stuff they listen to is just like, holy buckets, man! Where do you come up with this stuff? But they all sing it. They're all singing the van. So it was a cultural shock for an old man to listen to this stuff. But I guess that's
What are y'all listening to?
I don't know. I'm just listening to
no, because you take their phones.
You're not the music
I'm
guy?
not smart enough to take their phones.
I'm kind of a music guy. I can listen to like whatever.
No, I mean but usually I guess so for us we had actually our Euros were the big music guys. They were the ones who picked the warm up music. They're the ones who picked the workout music. So is that you? Do you pick a lot of the music that you guys work out to or anything?
I never pick the music.
No.
I just let them pick it.
You let them pick it?
Guy is a background guy.
Yeah, that's.
This guy's a background guy.
So that's Kyle's probably the music man, right?
Maybe Kyle, Jed. I would
Jed?
say, yeah,
Yeah.
mostly Jed, probably.
Jed listened to Filipino music.
Who on the team just bugs the hell out of you?
Way to go, coach.
Yeah.
Sean.
You talking about the goaltender, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only Sean on the team.
I'm trying to be politically correct. What does he do that bothers you?
I don't know.
Just being himself.
That's just goalie. That's what goalies do.
Yeah, he's a goalie. Where is there?
I don't know.
Who's probably the funniest guy on the team that makes you laugh?
Funniest, definitely Clayton.
Clayton. And what? Give me one funny thing he's done.
He's just stupid.
He's just
I'm going to
stupid.
translate that in a little nicer English.
He's not really smart.
That is nicer. He's not really smart. It was nicer.
He's not.
Poor
smart
Clayton.
kid.
You're not here to defend yourself, big fella. But
Yeah. Well, you know what? One of the big things I noticed, I think he's pulling it off a little bit past No Shave November or Movember, but Itai's got a little muzzy rock in here.
yes, he does.
He's got a nice little muzzy.
Yes, he does. You're supposed to
I
be
was trying to
clean.
look at it.
You're trying to look at it.
Who's the dumb one?
So where do you see your career going in hockey? Where do you want it to go from here? You're going to do your 4 years here, and then what's your aspirations from that point on?
Probably if I'll be good enough, I'll go to college. I want to go to college, and then after that, we'll see.
What kind of you have a college in your mind that you
No.
say I'd like to play for that team?
No.
No. Yeah. Well, that's something to work on. I mean, you listen to a lot of the pros, and you've listened to more than I have, Brandon. They never give up on your dreams. Just keep after it. Don't matter what people tell you or whatever. If this is your passion in life, to keep after it. That's why I'm finally in front of a mic. I started as a little kid with a paper roller talking on the mic. Now I'm in front of one. I don't do a great job, but anyhow, I finally mastered it.
See?
The future for you, sir. What is your aspiration? You want to be an ECHL coach or?
Oh, God, no.
God, no.
No, I got on board with this because of Derek, like all players did, and living in Northern California for as long as I have, and seeing how bad hockey has been out here for so many years. This is the only place where it's like a true hockey program. Everything else is fluff. And I don't want to be a part of fluff. I want to be a part of something that's real, and that's why I'm here.
And so, I know what you're talking about, and people here probably know what you're talking about, but try to explain that fluff versus what we're doing here, I guess is...
Well, it's like part-time versus full-time. You do something part-time, it gets part of your energy, part of your commitment, part of your attention. And if you do something full-time, you give it all of your attention, you put your heart and soul into it. You want to make it as good as you can. If you have, half your attention on your hockey team and the other half of your attention over on, flipping burgers at your day job or whatever it is you do, programming computers, something suffers. And it's usually going to be the hockey because you're going to be focused on putting food on your table. So for us here, program is every day of the week. The kids that get the attention every day of the week to get their, to facilitate their goals and their dreams, right? You don't do that 2 days a week, 3 days a week. It's an everyday thing. And this is the only place that will facilitate that. So I don't plan on going anywhere. I plan on staying.
Well, we're glad you are, and we want you to be around for a long time. We want this program to be around for a long time, and I always said this when we started it. And it was actually, somebody posted on Facebook that it was today's date, 1 year ago, I'll get it out, that we had, Coach Eisler and myself sat here on another program that is based out here, and we announced it, that this was going to happen. And so now we're a year after that, halfway through the season with a bunch of kids on here from all over the world, obviously, and it's going in the right direction. I think St. Mary's was pretty sharp and coming up with this idea. It was twofold for them. They needed to bring up their, student population, and I was lucky to be part of that. I feel very fortunate I was part of that. And Jim Bruce was the AD at that time. Now he's the president. Got together and wanted to know about hockey, so I explained my little knowledge of it. And then I hooked him up with Derek Eisler, which is how Zach came aboard, and it's moving on. So that was good. It was good, and I think from what we see that's coming next year, I believe we have 8 already signed to come next year. It's going nothing but upward, and like I've said before, they're looking, 5-year plan would be to have maybe 2 teams and maybe a third team being an all-women's team. So, I mean, that's the future of where St. Mary's is going and headed. The curriculum is probably one of the best out there, and that's a big part of it. I mean, people don't realize that that's a big part. It's, in other words, even Coach Eisler, as a hockey guy, been a hockey guy for a lot of years, it's about learning first and then hockey second. And a lot of places out there, it's about hockey first, and whatever else happens. But they have to have an education because hockey is only so long. I mean, most careers in hockey are what, 10, 12 years? I mean, that's probably on the high side.
I would think if you it's probably gears a little bit lower than that even, because I mean you got to factor in the guys that play in college and don't ever make, or in the ECHL and aren't making it to some of the higher levels that you want to go to. So I would imagine that it's a lot lower. I think you probably have very few careers that go 5+ long years. I mean, it's a pretty good career when someone goes that length in the NHL, I'd say.
Yeah, and so you have to have something to fall back on, and education is where it's at. Let's face it. A lot of jobs I could have got at a younger age didn't require a lot of college, but almost anything that makes you decent money to great money, you have to have an education for. So this program also offers that, which is truly, I think, a good thing for the kids that are coming, the young men. They're not kids really; they're kids to me, but young men that are coming up through here. So you're a part of something that's just taken off, and you can always look back at it and say, I was the first team that they had, and I like I said, I believe that this is going to be here for a long time. There's talk about putting a second sheet of ice here in Stockton. So those are all good things that are for Stockton, and maybe we get some. We do have some Lodi people that play hockey here for us, both organizations. So maybe in the future there will be something that visit Lodi and the hockey guy part of you comes out and gets back in touch with your roots.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what? Kind of going along with what you're saying, though, I think if I were some of the advice that I'd impart to you, Itai, is that the guys that you're playing with right now, you're going to remember these guys for a long time too. And the college teammates you have, they're going to be buddies for life. I mean, that's the cool thing about hockey, is that a lot of these guys you'll have relationships with for the rest of the time. So enjoy your time being a young man with these boys, but they're gonna be right there for you every step of the way, man. So it's always fun to, I think, be a part of the locker room, and I think that's one of the things. I mean, that keeps us beer leaguers still in. I'm not a very good beer leaguer, but I tell you what, I love being around the boys in the dressing room. And when you get to a certain age, Itai, I don't know what the drinking age is in Israel, but when you get to a certain age, you can enjoy a beer with the boys after a game or something like that, or a practice. So, or hopefully, at the very least, you'll be going to the NHL, and then you can enjoy beer afterwards. So,
but like I've said before, it's funny, the camaraderie and the family type of feeling you get with hockey is probably. I've never done the baseball thing or the football thing, but I think this is a tighter-knit community because of the travel that we do and how much time, especially this team, how much time you spent together.
Just look at the Humboldt Broncos. That transcended anything, even outside of hockey. People know about who the Humboldt Broncos are, but in the community, the Humboldt Broncos really kind of galvanized everyone. We don't know any of those players. We don't know the coaches. We don't know the team. I couldn't even point to Humboldt on the map. But did it affect you? Sure, of course it did, because as you know, you guys cram into vans, cram into buses. You go from place to place, and it's camaraderie. So it's one of those things that everyone in the hockey community, we grieve together, we celebrate together. It's that's what makes the community so special.
You see that a lot on the social media sites where coaches are talking about somebody that has cancer. That there was a player for him 15, 20 years ago. Everybody stays in touch, and I've only been involved in the youth hockey for 7 or 8 years now, and the people you forget some of the people that you met along the way, but you see them somewhere. You go to a rink, and Zach and I were talking about being back in Minnesota, and Eisler is like the Pied Piper. I mean, he's like, I don't know, he's like a big superstar, because you go down there and everybody's following him around, or, hey, coach here? Yeah, he's somewhere in the building. They're always looking after each other, and he's, it's amazing how people stick together in this community. And like you just told him, these people will be his friends or acquaintances for the rest of his life. That he played with. You still have friends that you played hockey with, don't you? This guy, he's great to be my co-host.
I got 3 friends. I have 3 friends.
Okay, who are they?
Dave, Rob, and Derek. And Rick.
Okay.
I have 4 friends.
See how he does me?
Yeah.
You see how he does? The first time I met him, I'll tell this really quick. He's doing a parent meeting, and my grandson played for his team, and he goes through all his rules and regulations. The guy's got to dress like this on game day, blah, 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 blah. Got to be here an hour and a half early, blah, blah, blah. And he says, and I won't be any of your friends at the end of this season. Nobody will like me, and I'm okay with that. And I said, so I walked up to him after. I said, I'm going to disappoint you because I'm going to make sure that you like me. So, but it's, like I said, it's a very special community. I do want to say something that's a personal thing for me, not about hockey, but if I can get through this, I think I will, about life. A lot of times we think it's very tough out there, the stuff he faced. But I'm going to get through this, Zach. You're going to help me.
Yeah, you get through it.
I have a grandson that several months ago got diagnosed with cancer. And today they took it all out. So when you think things are that bad, they're not really. I got a cold. That's what you're hearing, folks, is a cold. But he had 2 ribs taken out today, plus the mass that was left. Part of it was attached to his lung, and they got it all out, and he's doing well. So the people that have been reaching out to me and praying, I appreciate. My family appreciates all that, and I'm going to quit sobbing now. So how much time do we got there, Breaky?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. So now I'm back to my radio voice, but to all the people that wish me well out there and the prayers, keep them coming. He's got a little road ahead to get through the surgery, and he'll keep his chemo up, and hopefully in April we can knock on this table and say it's all gone. So he's a 7-year-old kid. So people, when you think it's rough, it's really not rough. And the man upstairs will never give you more than you can handle. And trust me, it's been big learning session for me this last 6 months. But I appreciate everybody that's here today. Brandon Kisker, I still call you the voice of the Heat, even though they
Thanks.
Probably won't like that. But you'll always be
Yeah.
the voice of the Heat. Etai, Roselawn, thank you for coming all the way from Israel to be on my show. And your pay is exactly the same. There's none, just like the rest of us here. Zach Lytle, thank you again for being there. Breaky, I got Breaky in the house with me. Thanks for your input today. We are done until next year. We won't be back on the air till next year. January 3rd, I believe, is a Thursday. That will be our first Thursday back. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I do say that. I don't say Happy Holidays because it is Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. If I offended you, don't tune in any longer. But that's just the way it is. And I'm going to sign off with the normal sign off that I do. A little bit of Casey Kasem, a little bit of Anthony Alvarado. Keep your skates on the ground and reach for the stars. Keep your dreams alive. Have a good evening, folks.